Yo, what's good, YouTube? It's boardzy. This is going to be a review of Artisan's new mouse skates. This is very shocking. They are called the Mizugumo Futae P8. They are made of a POM material. They're 8 millimeters in diameter and 0.8 millimeters thick. So maybe that's a lucky number. Maybe these were just optimal measurements. But these are a speed skate. There is no denying that, and they are distinctly different from just a traditional PTFE skate. But if you've been around mouse skates for a while, you know that materials, they come and go, and PTFE still stays king. So it's a very hard task to take on. So I asked for questions, comparison requests, and the most common question was, how are these on glass pads? These are explicitly not made for glass pads because you can see these have a dome shape, and that's what gives them all of the good qualities, which I will get into later. But using it on glass will just cause them to flatten out, and then they'll no longer be special snowflakes. And there's so many good skates for glass. You guys are you just want to waste more money. It's like a symptom of using a glass pad. And yeah, I'll get into the performance, how these compare to some popular skate options now. But if there's one universal property I would say that they have, regardless of the mouse pad, regardless of the weight of your mouse, the amount of skates you apply, there is a lighter feeling of like initial motions, which just in turn makes the mouse feel lighter, and the balance, the feeling between initial and dynamic friction is just more even than it is on PTFE. Yeah, I'm definitely not the only person to notice this. If anything, I would say I'm a little light on my praise. People are giving these like my original Artisan level shilling testimonials. So for a lot of people, especially like if you're playing something tracking heavy, these do just make everything feel so much more instantaneous. There's not really a tug when you go to switch directions. There's not as much of a suction feeling to the pad as you get on PTFE, and it's not like this is bad or it's not something most people are used to, but it's just a very noticeable difference when you use the Artisan skates that are optimized for this experience. And so far in this video, I've been using the Hayate Otsu Xsoft because these really do transform Xsoft pads. Dots are known for being like very scrapey, very loud, especially when you put in pressure. They're just not known to be usable on Xsoft pads, and these completely are. They really make the experience feel more like a soft pad. But yeah, despite the difference in like friction levels, feedback, surface area, I can't say that I'm really a better player when I use my XM2 with the Artisan skates compared to my GPX with some PTFE skates that I genuinely don't even know the brand of. And yeah, it's not like these are only designed for Xsoft pads. One of my favorites to use them on was the QCK Speed, the new SteelSeries pad. It's criminally underrated, and they have on this pad a very low feedback, high speed experience, but coming to a stop just is not hard whatsoever. Like with these skates, you would think there would be a control or stability trade-off, and there certainly is to some level, but it comes more at the beginning of the motion rather than when the mouse is actually in motion or coming to a stop. So if you are somebody who prefers higher initial friction, let's say you use like a Type 99 or a GSR, that type of pad, and just standard PTFE skates, these could feel a bit quick, but if you're using it on one of those like heavily controlled cloth pads, these will just be a more low feedback but high control experience, which is not what I look for. I'll list some pads I did not enjoy these on, like the Kurosan Samurai, the X-Ray Pad Heavy B, just heavily textured pads like that. The Type 99 was probably my least preferred Artisan pad, and of the textured Artisan pads, the Hien, Otsu, and Key 83, I like them all, but probably preferred the Otsu, or maybe that was just what I put the most time on. It's always hard to tell. And yeah, with the Type 99, think about it like this. Some words I've been associating with the Artisan skates, like light, quick, effortless. It just becomes a bit more dense feeling, and I just don't feel like you get much out of the skates compared to just full-size PTFE skates. I think these are Jade Ultras or something, full-size skates from X-Ray Pad. Even the mysterious GPX skates, like they feel fine on the Type 99. There's really not a big difference between them and the Artisan skates. So yeah, you can understand that there is a balance between your mouse skates and your mouse pad and the weight of your mouse, and you're just looking to find that ideal balance for yourself. So yeah, these are a good enthusiast option. They would not be the first skates I recommend to people if you just have like one cloth control pad and you want to get like good, long-lasting, cheap skates, obviously I would just say get some standard PTFE. But if you are an enthusiast, you do have a lot of pads, you want to see how these feel different on each of them, see what combos work for you, I would definitely recommend going for them. But I can't say I had the same, like, these are going to be the main skates I put on every mouse going forward experience that some people did. I had also been testing prototypes of this for nearly a year now. And yeah, I do have this prototype version on my Skyrox V6, and these haven't started to wear down yet in any type of significant way, but what happens is the initial friction feeling just starts to get a little bit sticky. Like, you lose that complete slipperiness, that effortlessness, and you just get a bit of a sticky feeling. And yeah, Artisan definitely does not advertise these to be infinitely durable. They say that they need replacement often. They don't specify how often, but yeah, they kind of view this like the Shidenkai V1, where if you want to pay up for like speed and consistency and a feeling you really just can't get from normal skates, that's going to come at the expense of like long-term durability. But yeah, my few weeks of testing the production models, there's nothing that has really indicated that these would slow down especially quick, but I do feel like after, let's say, 2 months of hard use, these won't feel as fresh as they did out of the box, but the same thing can be said for PTFE, but it is different with this. I mean, take my word, or don't. Also, POM is a bit less resistant to humidity than PTFE, so last summer when I was testing them, and I experienced some, like, odd slowdown, I kind of attributed it to that, but I have not experienced any of that recently. I will say, for me, I enjoyed the most with these kind of heavier, like, mid-50 to low 60-gram mice. One of the only caveats is that they don't fit on the bottom of the GPX, unless you were to, like, sand down the edges, but it's doing a bit much. I don't like dots on the GPX to begin with, and just as a matter of value, buying something like X-Ray Pad dots, Ultra Glide dots, full-size PTFE skates, it obviously will be a cheaper outcome. With the current price of yen, these come out to around $13 for 16 skates, which I really don't find egregious. Obviously, I mean, there's not even a denomination of currency low enough to explain how cheap PTFE skates are to manufacture, so it can't compete with that. But yeah, the big issue with the price is that the shipping is just egregious unless you combine it with a mousepad currently, but I believe retailers like Max Gaming, JP Gaming will get their hands on these skates eventually and probably be sold around $15. So yeah, there's certainly not a necessity in my opinion. Like, if you've only ever used PTFE, you will be just fine continuing on with that. But if you're somebody who's bought a speed mousepad, for example, with the intent of having a more open, like less resistant, just quicker experience, I think you could justify the purchase of these skates for that exact same reason. I do think the feature of these that has and will wow people the most is just the evenness in terms of static and dynamic friction levels. And you just don't really notice the kind of randomness of like slowdown and speed up of PTFE and just how it isn't consistent until you try something like the Artisan skates. Again, does that make a night and day difference in my gameplay? No, but it's just worth mentioning. And yeah, I realize I haven't spoken much about the actual feedback, like how textures feel on these skates. And these are not the type of skate that will just completely smooth out a pad, take all feeling of texture away. But because these just kind of feel like you're floating on a slightly higher level, it's more of a light graze rather than like an intense scraping feeling. So yeah, these skates do pick up the texture of all of Artisan's hybrid mousepads, all of the hardnesses. There is really nothing off to note. Maybe it just does have a slightly more elegant grazing feeling than traditional skates, or maybe that is just a figment of my imagination. And yeah, that's going to be about all for this video. I know I could have done a lot more comparisons to other types of skates, shown it on more mouse pads, but really these skates are just going to vary so much depending on your personal setup, and I do feel like these are for the type of person who already has Artisan mouse pads, is an enthusiast, is willing to take some type of risk to have a difference in your mouse skate experience. If that's not you, then just stick with PTFE. I mean, go watch my tier list. I still think, especially on like the Artisan Zero and smooth controlled cloth pads like that, full-size Magic Ice skates are just superior to the Artisan skates, but you could have a totally opposite opinion. That's going to be all for this video. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Any questions or comments that you have, feel free to leave them below. Peace out.